So please, somebody of you tell me, what do you mean by trade? We already studied in this chapter. So many days we have been discussed about this. So what do you mean by, yes, please. Trade means,
Group.
Character, sir.
yeah, please. What is this? Character, correct or not? So character or a behavior, whatever it is, which will coming from our parents or when we are learning something from observations or something. So simply we can say characters, traits means we used to say characters. Yes or no, guys? Please respond. Correct. So now here we are having two kinds of traits, that is acquired traits and another one is inherited traits. So what is the difference between a characteristics or a traits, which traits, acquired traits and inherited traits means? So let us discuss acquired traits first and later we'll discuss inherited traits. So it's not a big deal, but the thing is, while you are selecting in exam, they will ask you either it is acquired trait or inherited trait, so that you must have a complete awareness of it. Then only we can select. Even one question I will show you that which is asked in exam. So if you notice it, as we know, simply a trait means character. Is it yes or no, guys? Traits means characters, or we can say a trait means in the sense of we can say characteristics. Is it yes, guys? Please respond. So characteristic, if you take any kind of organism, a trait of an organism which not inherited, you might be understand inherited. What do you mean by inherited, guys? Which is coming from our parents, like genes, which is not coming through the genes, but it develops in response to the environment. That is what we used to call as acquired traits. Do you understand? So a trait of an organism, whatever it is, anything of an organism which is not inherited, but develops in response to the environment. Is called an acquired trait. So now simply I want to say, for example, let me take me people only. So me, I came from Andhra. So here I started learning Tamil now. So it is not the character, you might be see, it is not the character which is came inherited from my parents. Is it yes or no, guys? Because of environmental situation, I am developing, I am inheriting. It's like I am getting that character, like adjusting the culture of the Tamil or surviving here or whatever it is, the situations. So I am developing my own. It is not coming from my parents or my grandparents or whatever it is, which is not anything. A character which is not coming through the genes means without changing the genetical characteristics. So that is only we used to call as acquired traits. Do you understand, everybody? Please respond. So which is coming, which we are getting from the environment or the environmental changes. So that is only we used to call as what we used to call acquired trait. So for example, let me take, you might be noticed, as I told you, my example, as I migrated from Andhra to Tamil Nadu and I am trying to survive here. So a lot of changes you might be notice it, which I am learning from the environment, which I am getting the characteristics from the environment. So that is only ways to called as acquired traits. So now let us come to one more example. You might be notice it, beetles. Have you know about the beetles? Please respond. So you might be heard about the beetles. So now beetle, if does not get sufficient food, no food if it is getting, then you can see it is considerable time. If it is not getting, then slowly no food is getting, it will lose its weight. Do you understand it? So its weight will be reduced. So then what is happening? Because of atmosphere, because of environmental conditions, no food is gained. So that what is happening? Weight will be reduced, and due to what? Starvation. So starvation means what? Lack of nutrition or lack of food. We used to call it as starvation. So due to starvation, the weight of the beetle will keep on reduces. So this low weight, is it coming from the genes, or suppose now because of no food weight will reduces, so finally will become low weight. So now you people tell me, this low weight is coming from the genes or it is because of atmosphere, because of environment? Anybody? Karthikeyan, Krutika, please speak, communicate. So is it because of it is losing? It is losing its weight because of starvation. So now is it coming from it is inherited trait or acquired trait?
Acquired trait, sir.
Acquired trait. Because it has been acquired in response to the environment, which we can say contained insufficient food. So because of insufficient food, this beetle is lost its weight. So that is acquired by the environment. It's not inherited from the parents or somebody. So that is why this low weight or gaining weight, we used to say it is, suppose over food, you might be notice it. Some people, parents may be very thin or very thick, like normal, but the children will become too much of fatty. Have you noticed it, guys? At the age of 10, 15 itself, because of eating the different kind of varieties of food or oil food or something, because of the environment where they are living, they will become over fatty. So that is the characteristics which is acquired or which is inherited, which is acquired by them because of the more eating, more fat food consuming, more nutrients food consuming, or else the over consuming of food, it will cause us over fatty. So that is also acquired disease only, acquired trait we can say. So here low weight is happening because of acquired. So it has been acquired in response to the environment which is which contain insufficient food. So that is what we used to call it as acquired trait. Now, for example, one more thing you might be know. So you all know about the mouse. You all know about the mouse. Mouse, we can say rat. Mouse or rat. Have you know about it, guys? Please respond. Yes, please. Or else you might be know a lizard in our home. So lizard, how many of you know that? So you might be see. Suppose the tail of a mouse get cut. The tail of a mouse get cut. So then what is happening, guys? You might be notice it. Lizard also same thing will happen. So the tail or the mouse or rat, if you'll see, the tail once get cut off, then the cut tail of this mouse is also an acquired trait. Why, guys? Anybody can explain me why it is? What is the expectation? You are answering that question. I am saying that the tail of a rat, once it is cut, then this cut tail of this mouse is also an acquired trait. So why it is? Anybody? Please. Yes. So because the tail, if you suppose the cut tail of this mouse, we can say it is acquired trait, which has been bought, understanding, about by some agent in its environment. It is growing, regrowth is because of surroundings or environment. It is not done by genetical changes or anything. So a man may know how to swim. For example, so you can see, let me take me. My father know very well swimming. Me, I don't know swimming. But my son or my children may learn the swimming. Or else you might be see, like in the case of rat only. For example, like as I told you, I am speaking Tamil, but my father don't know anything. So, like for example, you might be someone of you might be speak Hindi, you might be speak French, correct? So somebody may be roller skates. You might be, some of your friends may be roller skating, they are very good. Some of them are very good in swimming. Some of them, they can speak French, German or Chinese, etc. Or may they have scare on face from a cut got in an accident or whatever it is you might be see. All these acquired traits we used to say. So which the man has picked up or acquired himself as he goes through life. So when he is moving, when he is surviving on this environment, so because of our surroundings, the person can learn or he can pick it up, we can say. So that is what we used to call as this picked up only, we used to call as acquired traits. So what he will learn from the surroundings. If I will go German, I will learn Japan, suppose Japanese language, China, Chinese language, German language, like that. Whenever if I am going, it's not guaranteed that my parents only speaking so that I am getting my language. Suppose a boy born in Tamil Nadu immediately has been taken into America, there only has been well grown and everything has been done there. So 100% he may not get Tamil. Means in the sense of what parents are Tamilians, but baby does not getting Tamil. Means in the sense of what it is not an inherited trait. It is the acquired trait. So which is coming from the environment, which we are picking up when we are goes through the life, when we are day-to-day life, when we are surviving. So based upon the situations, if you are learning something, then that is we used to call as acquired trait. For example, parents are illiterate, so it doesn't mean that child also should become illiterate. So he may be learned well, he may be become even more big position than the educated person's children. So that is what acquired trait we can say. Because when he is moving through the life, a man which is not born with these all the traits and he cannot pass on these traits to his children, that all the traits we used to call as acquired traits. All of you should remember that. Whatever he not got from the birth, whatever he cannot pass through his future generations, all these traits we used to call as what, guys? Acquired traits. So all of you should remember that whatever it is which is happening through the genetical changes or through our parents or from ancient parents, if it is not coming through the by birth or which we cannot pass through our next generation, then that is we used to call as acquired traits. So now, sir, why, sir? Why these acquired traits cannot pass through the future generation, or why it is not coming from our parents by birth time? We will discuss it. So let us comes to, first of all, have you understand what do you mean by acquired traits, everybody? Nitish, Varshini. So now let us discuss first, all of you write the definition of acquired traits, then later we will see that. The acquired traits of organism, the acquired traits of an organism, as I already told you the definition, now you can write this point. The acquired traits of organism cannot be passed on there, cannot be passed on there, cannot be passed, the acquired traits of organism cannot be passed on to their future generations. So that is whatever it is not coming from the birth are not passed through the next generation is called as acquired traits, we used to say. Is it okay, guys? Everybody, please respond. So that is what you need to remember. So now, what is the reason, sir? What is the reason behind why we cannot pass this? Let us discuss. So we already studied that last previous classes in the chapter, like genes, chromosomes, understand, as well as blood group, sex determination, a lot of things we have been discussed in this. Genotype, phenotypes, understanding formation of F1 generation, F2 generation, all the things you might be remember. So here you can see the traits of parents are passed to their offsprings through what? Only one thing. So whatever the characteristics or traits which are present in our parents, which will pass through the children only through one. What is that, guys? Which are present in parents, which is passed through the children only through one thing. What is that? Anybody can tell me? The traits of parents will be passed through the children only through one way. What is the way?
Genes.
What is the bridge?
Genes.
Only through the genes.
Genes.
Yes, that is what you need to remember. So only is the genes is the reproductive cells, or we can say gametes, male gametes and female gametes, who is responsible during the process of reproduction. So when male body or female body, whatever it is, during the reproduction, only the characteristic or traits from the parents to the children will transform through the genes only. So the trait of an organism to be passed on, it must be caused. For example, I am getting some characteristic from my parent or some characteristic from my mine to my children, then only genetical changes will happen. My genes will be modified, then only the character is inbuilt or coming in my children. So that is why the acquired diseases are not inherited diseases, inherited traits. So now, for example, you can see, let us take during the process of reproduction, the trait of an organism to be passed on, it must be caused by its change in its genes. Our genes is made up of inside. We know that. What is that, guys? DNA. So what is the DNA? DNA full form, anybody? So this DNA will change only. Please respond. So DNA will be modified inside these genes, then only the reproductive cells of the organism, which is present in the parents, will be transmitted the characteristics to offsprings. So that is why only those traits which can be transmitted to future generations, in which the changes have occurred in the genes or DNA present in the reproductive cells of parent organism. So that kind of changes, the changes in these are non-reproductive body cells of an organism, which cannot be inherited by its offsprings. So they all will be acquired traits only. So only any kind of characteristic which can change the DNA or the sex gametes, then only that character is passing through the offsprings. If it is not possible to pass it. So that is what you have to remember it. So anything, whatever the characteristic or trait, which will be transmitted to the future generations, only when, guys, only change occur or changes occurred, where the changes should occur, where changes occurred in the genes or DNA. So then only it will be happen. So other than this, we can say, why? Because these are called as reproductive cells. So other than this, non-reproductive cells, wherever the changes happen, non-reproductive cells, wherever the changes happen, it is not a inherited one. It is what it is, guys. It is not inherited trait. So it is what it is, guys? Acquired traits.
Acquired traits.
Anybody? So acquired traits. So that is what you need to remember. So only 2 points everybody should remember. Any changes occurred in reproductive cells, that is what we used to say, gametes, sex gametes, or DNA. What do you mean by DNA full form? Nobody is saying. I asked you already.
Deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid.
So in this, any changes will happen. That is only will come in our future offsprings. If it is no changes in DNA or sex gametes, nothing will happen. So other than the DNA cell, gamete cell, any other body parts, non-reproductive cells, we used to say. So whatever it is, the changes happen, it is all acquired trait. It is not possible to send it to the next generation. So now let us take one more example so that you can understand more clearly. So now let me take, when the weight of a beetle is reduced, you might be notice it, as I already told you, due to what, guys? Due to lack of nutrition. That is what we used to say, starvation. Understand, right? So now if you take the beetle, so due to starvation means no food, proper food. Understand? It leads to the death. So beetle starvation, what is happening, guys? Its weight will become reduced. Yes or no? So weight is reduced. So now you can see, then there is a change in the normal body cells of the beetle, but no change takes place in the genes. So weight is reduced in the sense of the change is taking place. Change is happened or taking place in only where the non-reproductive cells. So reproductive cells does not happen, non-reproductive cells only happening, so that the weight of the body is reduces. But it does not affect any change in gene or DNA present in the reproductive cells. So there is no change in the gene of a gametes, then this acquired trait. What is the acquired trait in the beetle? Because of starvation, what is the acquired trait here, guys? Anybody? What is the acquired trait? Low weight or weight reduced. So this is only, it is happening because of no change in the DNA or no change in the gene. So that is why there is no, since there is no change in the gene, this is to called as acquired trait. So now, for example, parent is, suppose the parent beetle. Now this beetle will involve in sexual reproduction after losing their weights. Is it the babies also will get the low weight? Please respond. Is it the babies also will get low weight? Nobody will respond.
No, sir.
No, that is what you have to remember. So it cannot be inherited by its offsprings also. Once the parent is lost its weights because of starvation, doesn't mean that the baby is also going to born very thin or going to lose its weights, because it is not affecting on sexual reproductive cells. So that is what you have to remember. So if some generations of beetles are low in body weight because the availability of less food, then this is not an example of evolution also, because this change cannot be inherited over generations. So that is why we cannot say it is not evolution. Because of starvation of food, if you go for example Africans, so like generations that does not have proper food. So doesn't mean that a baby who is born also will be facing the problem of low weight. Suppose he will migrate from the Africa, so he might be having a chances to get back his normal weight. So that is what. So doesn't is like some generations also, if they are not getting proper food, like so many, so doesn't mean that it is not an example of evolution like inherited trait, because this is not, it cannot be inherited over the generations. So that is why these beetle will get sufficient food. Whenever they stays, they will get sufficient food, they will be become healthy again, and the trait of low body weight will disappear. So that is why it is called as acquired trait. So it is not inherited trait. So even though they are continuously not getting the food, they will continuously lose the weight. Whenever they will get the food back, again they will be become healthy, and they will, the trait of low body weight will be disappear. So that is why we can say it is not the example of evolution, because it cannot be inherited over the generations. That is what everybody need to remember. So now let us take one more example. That is what a mouse or a maze or rat, whatever it is in our home. So most of you people know that. So the tail will be cut off due to some reasons in the nature, or else sometimes you might be saying, I'm having good experience in agricultural land. Sometimes when we're trying to kill the rats because of they're spoiling the crops. So if we'll hold, unfortunately, the tail will come out and the rat will escape. But the tail again will start a regrowth into the normal. So that is not an inherited trait. So why it is inherited trait, guys? Can anybody say, please? I will show you the pictures also. So now you might be notice it in this picture clearly. So here that the rat or mice or mouse, whatever it is. So mice is having, before it is having tail. So now due to some something, you might be in a condition like because of environment issues, or when it is running somewhere between the stones or between the rocks, or due to some reason, it may lose its tail, the tail cut off. Then you see that all the second generation. So this is the first generation. These are the F1 generation, or parents. Let me take understanding. So parents, they lost its tails. The tails of mice are cut surgically, or else some accidents, due to some accidents it may lose, they become tailless mouse. So this all will become tailless mouse. If you leave it for some days, again the tail will start growing back again. Or else during this time, if you cut these tails, and if we'll allow them for the reproduction, and if we'll make that babies, you might be notice it, the babies which are getting from the rat, all the second generation. You understand, everybody? So this is second generation, F1 generation, you can take. So every mice baby is again born with a normal tail. So they will be produced by breeding. So the cut tail mice have full tails. So no tailless mouse is born. So even though the parents lost its tails because of some accidents are intentionally fell cut, but when they are involving in the sexual reproduction, again all the babies they born with the tails only. So on parents also the tail will be regrowth back again. Now you tell me, this is a inherited trait or acquired trait? You can please respond. So all the progeny, you might be notice it, all the progeny of mice, they have a tails here. You can see, and all the progeny of their tails, they have been cut completely. In this tails of this mice are completely cut by surgically. Now, if we'll allow them for breeding, now you can see we will get now a new mice, but with the full tails we are getting. So now you tell me, it is acquired trait or inherited trait? Let me speak. Somebody of you, yes, please respond. So why, if you are saying if it is acquired trait, then why it is called as acquired trait? Let me know. Yes, please. Because you see, here if you are cutting the tail by surgical operation or something, whatever it is not changing in the genes. It is not affecting on the sexual reproductive cells or gametes. It is a non-reproductive cell, the tail. So tail is not the one who will decide the characteristics of offsprings. So that is why even though the parents will lose the external part, the non-reproductive cells of this tail, but still the babies, all they will born with the tail only. So that is what you have to remember. So the tailless mouse is never born even though the parents is having no tail. So the tail of a mouse for a number of generations, if will take, a tailless mouse is never born. So the cut tail of a mouse is an acquired trait which is never passed on to their future progeny. Do you understand, everybody? So that is why, because the cut tail of a mice does not change the reproductive cells, or does not change the gene of their reproductive cells. Reproductive cells, or we can say gametes. So that is why this is we used to call it as acquired trait, and the cut tail does not bring in the future generation, or it is not about to change in the gene of mice. So the trait cannot be passed through their next generation. So that is why we can conclude that the experiences of an individual during a lifetime, we all wish to call it as acquired traits. So it cannot be passed to its progeny. So it cannot lead to evolution because they are not caused by the change in the genes. So that is what you need to remember. So please, all of you, write it. The experiences of an individuals. So different experiences. You might be see even some of your fathers knows even Singapore. Suppose they are saying Singapore language, they know. Some are staying in foreign countries, other countries. Saudi, they maybe knows even Arabic. They knows Urdu. They knows. Even though they are not Muslim or particular religion, but still they know. Some people they can speak Urdu well. Some people they can speak Hindi well, like Arabic language, because they are staying there. So because of the needy, because of the environment, they are acquiring that character. So they are getting off the character. So that is it is not affecting the reproductive cells. So that is why we used to call it as this all acquired traits only. You understand, everybody? So that is only we used to say whatever it is coming because of environmental, we used to say acquired trait, it does not affect on our reproductive cells. That is why we can say it cannot lead to the evolution. All of you remember, evolution will take place only the genetical changes will take place. Means the genes, the characteristic will affect on sexual reproductive cells, that is what gametes or DNA, then only the evolution will take place from one generation to the next generation or the progeny to the another progeny. So that is what you need to remember. So here all of you write the 2 points. The experiences of an individual, the experiences of an individual during its lifetime, we used to call it as what, guys? Acquired traits. Arvind, have you understand, Arvind? Karthikeyan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, lifetime cannot be passed on to its progeny, and hence cannot lead to evolution. Because, see, exam they'll ask you this one more question. This is only why acquired traits is not leads to evolution. By the time you have to write this answer, because they are not caused by what, Kevin? Caused by change in